This video will be a tier list video kinda of the easiest classes or specs to main, alt, to get fast results, or specs that has a very steep learning curve. I'm going to let you know here which specs they are, and if you want to have fast results for this season, or if you're looking into a new main where you want to dedicate your 100% on it and that it has a lot of great value to put your time on it, then this tier list is for you. Of course, it doesn't like it's not a fail safe trap, I would say, because again, something can be very easy to learn, but actually not that good overall to climb with. So I will try to also put a very fast results line where if you really want to have fast results, it's kind of easy and the learning curve is not as steep and you are going to play a meta spec. This is going to be the line for you. I will try to give also my opinion to it, but let's talk about why am I making the tier list. If anyone knows me from the channel or from playing with me, whatever, I play nearly every single spec. There is just like a few specs I don't touch. For example, augmentation evoker, I'm not touching that. I think again tank specs, I'm not really playing that much tank at all right now. I'm not experimenting as well, or whatever. I'm not touching a spec is because I tested it, I didn't like it, or I didn't have fun with it. But the only one I really never played is augmentation evoker. I'm going to say from talking with people, I'm going to say it's an easy to play one, but you're not going to have good results with it. So again, I encourage everyone to listen to the whole video so you have context. I will try to not make it a long video, but I guess you're going to click on the video and you will see the amount of minutes, so I might be lying, but we'll have to see. Let's talk spec per spec. I will try to do class per class so we can actually group everything up. So we have Affliction Warlock. It is a spec that is truly not easy to play. It is, and it has a learning curve, and it's not something you will have fast results, so it's not going to be there. It's for sure going to be hard at the start. Sometimes you will have lobbies, especially in social form, where you will have to run away from everything and anything, and you don't really want to cast. And sometimes they get baited to go for you, and you can actually like run away from super far to closer to your healer to go back to super far. And you have like some specs that are really easily kited. For example, enhancement Shaman is super easy to kite. To be honest, warriors are easy to kite if they don't have freedom, especially if they don't have a decurs. They have like blade storms and such as arms, but fury is even easier. For example, I personally think windwalker is actually easy to kite. You have some DPSers that are actually just easier to kite than others. But you will suffer versus DKs, you will suffer versus DHs, versus like, again, a Paladin with a melee, for example, that can freedom. That's also very suffering for you, but you also will suffer versus assassination rogue, for example. But overall, I'm not talking about like pure power of the spec, but is it going to be like easy to play? Learning, does it have a learning curve, or do you have to main it to actually like have results? And in my opinion, it's one of the specs that you kind of have to main it if you really want to have results with it, positive results. It's not really something you're going to like face roll your way to victory. It's often the people that are really diehard fans of Affliction Warlock that are actually going to climb as Affliction Warlock. And often or not, if they don't climb as Affliction Warlock, they switch to Destruction Warlock or Demonology Warlock, and they have a better way to climb, I would say. And speaking of Demonology Warlock, I think it has a learning curve. It's not easy to play. People would say that it is the BM Hunters spec of Warlocks, which I do not agree. It has too much spells to cast. You have to stand still way too often to actually get some damage out. And yes, you can face tank a bit, and yes, you have CC, and yes, you have damage that sometimes is like inexplicable to the people, like why are you doing damage, you're not casting. But once you have casted, the damage is going out, and it has like some jet lag, I would say. You're not going to feel the damage right now, but you're going to feel the damage after a bit of time because of all the demons that are going to come out. But overall, if you're learning Warlock and you're learning Demonology Warlock, it has a learning curve, but it gets better and you can actually climb very well with it. Destruction Warlock, the same. People are saying that it is hard to play. It is truly not easy to play compared to, let's say, a Warrior, or let's say a Retribution Paladin, or let's say a Windwalker, for example. But it is not really the hardest spec of the like caster wise. If you want to play a very hard spec caster wise, I will cite some, but I would say Affliction Warlock is 10,000 times harder than Destruction Warlock, for example. But you also have fast results with it. I don't want to put on very fast results because you still have to learn how to play caster. And if you're like a ranged main, you're not going to. If you're not a ranged main, but you're melee, you're not a ranged main, but you are a melee main, you're not going to have fast results with it. But if you're a ranged main and you play, for example, Elemental Shaman, you're going to feel at home at Warlock. I think Destruction Warlock is like fantastic. It does a lot of damage. It has a lot of instant spells, three school of spells. You just need to emulate more and you need to incinerate more and spend more conflags and shadow burns. You don't want to sit still and chaos bolt your way to victory because that's not going to happen. But sometimes you're going to do triple rift into conflag, shadow burn, and someone is dying out of some sudden. So you have to play around your strength. I think Destruction Warlock has a lot of strength, but it has a learning curve. It's not easy to play. It's also not something that has very fast results, but I don't think like Destruction Warlock has to be main to be having results, for example. If we're going to talk about warriors, for example, I would say that Fury Warrior is very easy to play, but you will not have very fast results because it is not meta. It is easy to play though. You don't have a lot of things that are intrinsically hard to do. A lot of the macros, like a lot of the abilities you can press, are actually very macroable into a Swifty one-shot macro. So you don't have to press like a lot of stuff. Your defensives, you can use it while stunned. There is a few things that you have to think about, like for example intervene or your utility spells here and there, but even then as a Fury Warrior you don't have that much compared to, let's say, an Arms Warrior. Your PvP talents are quite selfish compared to an Arms Warrior, for example. It is really easy to play. Now I am a Warrior main again. It doesn't, again, easy to play doesn't equate to power. It does equate to some result at the start, but you will feel a glass ceiling very fast. And some people will try to convince you that Fury Warrior is very climbable, but they fail to explain how they climbed or what happened in season 1, season 2, because they had like MMR to spare, and then in season 3 it just falls over because again, you can just rely on the MMR you had. But overall, I think Fury Warrior is easy to play, and Arms Warrior is actually something you could have very fast results with it. It's not bad, it's not meta. I would say it's meta, but it's not like God tier. Like it is always going to be meta because it is like a spec that is actually very good with everything and good versus everything, but it's not fantastic versus anyone, right? But you will have very fast results. Now, you will have to dedicate a bit of time on it. You will have to know how to use your defensives, how to use your CC, how to use your damage, and rotation is quite important. And some people do less damage than others, and you will like see that very quickly. Also, having the right build and such. Again, I have guides for it, so if you want to check that out, please do. But again, Arms Warrior, you will see the difference between a good one and a bad one. I would say don't hold your fear too long. Don't hold your Stormbolt too long. It's 30-second CD, so you can just like stun on CD, and you can do it on a DPS to hold some damage, or you can do it on a healer to actually like put pressure. Again, it's your decision. We try to look at the DRs and try to stun something that is useful to stun, and also off DR. But overall, you can have very fast results with it. I don't think it's phase roll though. I would say if I have to put it somewhere, it would be learning curve in comparison with easy to play, but it is not that hard, and I do feel like you can have very fast results with any specialty. If you're a healer main, if you're a ranged main or a melee main, you can pick up arms, and if you're somewhat good at the game, you will understand that arms is actually very good at climbing very fast. Now, is it going to get you 2400 the first season? Maybe not. Again, depending if you have like mates in threes, maybe well you can do that. And social shuffle again, it depends about lobbies and depends about a lot of stuff. I do feel like 2400 is not as easy as let's say other classes, but you can have very fast results anyways. Let's talk about hunters. I'm going to upset some people, but I do think you can have very fast results with BM Hunter. I have a guide on it again. You just have to play. Personally, I don't play BM Hunter that much anymore because I'm spending way too much time on other specs. I might have to pick up it again because I think I can just climb very fast with it. So I just have to play, to be honest. But BM Hunter, it's a spec that is actually easy to play, and you have some learning curve, but it's very it's not steep enough to put it there, and it's not hard to have to must main it to be proficient with it. So for me, very fast results. It is also very meta. I do feel like for me it's god tier. It is unnerved. They might get nerfed in the future, but again, for now it's not nerfed. And I do feel like if you pick up Hunter right now, you pick up BM Hunter right now, and you look up a guide, and you know how to press a CC, and you know how to scattershot the off DPS, you can really climb very well. Just need to use your spells. If you're not using your spells, like the few utility spells you have and the few things that you have that are not damage spells, and damage spells, you have only 2 buttons. You don't even press Cobra Shot really, like at all. I should, like, you really should unbind Cobra Shot. It is not needed in Season 3, especially if you have enough haste. But BM Hunter is really awesome at that. If you really want to have fun in the game and directly have fun, you could have really fast fun with BM Hunter. I would also write fast fun. It's not big enough, but anyways, it's fun as well. Very fast results and fun. You can directly pick up BM and have loads of fun. Survival Hunter, I would say, is something, in my opinion, you should main to really have great results. Because I think, should I maybe learning curve? I don't know. I feel like, again, if you're not experienced in playing in Hunter just in general, and you're not experienced in surviving outside of like Shadowlands with Retribution stratagem, now it's gone for like 3 seasons already, and you don't have the feign death talent that is going to dispel any dots anymore. So this is going to be like harder for you in general right now to play a survival hunter, and in my opinion, it's not really something you can alt. I think it's like, especially if you're like talking about threes, if you want to like play threes as survival hunter. Often or not, you have a lot of survival hunters that are playing twos in soul shuffle, and they go BM in threes, which I understand. In threes, if you want to play survival hunter, you have to actually main it, in my opinion, because you need to know what the hell you're doing with your rotation and anything you want to do to be proficient as a survival hunter. Now, is it going to give you fast results? In my opinion, right now, not. But if you're maining one, chances are you can climb very well with it. I don't think it's very altable. I don't think it's easy to play. I don't think it has fast results. It is insanely fun though. I would recommend you guys to main one, but I don't think it's like anything below the hard to play must main spec category. And I do feel like it's easy to play. I think people like kind of compare MM and BM and say, but MM is harder than BM. To be honest, you have like 2 extra spells to do damage, and those are generally procs. Like for example, arcane shot, you don't press it as long as you don't have a proc, and you get it from aim shot. And kill shot is something you're going to use whenever it's popping off. Again, it's a proc. You have rapid fire, which you should use whenever you are not going to be CC'd, and you have like a pillar where you can just run beside it. Or you can cast it freely without getting interrupted. And aim shot is going to do like something, you press it whenever you can, basically. And the more you press aim shot, the more damage you will do, and you try to fight around your true shot. It's actually not that hard. As MM, you could go for traps, but you could also say, look, I'm here to maximize DPS. I'm not going to play next to their healer because I want to kite the meaties. So you're going to effectively make the healer CC at all time by making the other melees line the healer. And that's actually your job as an MM hunter. Of course, your uptime is a lot less higher than a BM, but BM is also easy to play. It's not like it's like harder to play than MM. But I do feel like people are comparing those two and they say, but how dare you play BM? It's so easy to play. I'm playing the chat spec, which is MM. Which, let's be honest, both of them are not that hard to play. Just one is very meta and the other one is not. If MM hunters were very meta and BM hunters were not, it would be like this, right? It's not going to be anywhere near the same easy to play thing. It will always depend on the meta and where the specs are lying versus each other. And right now, BM hunter is just easier, like not easier, but I would say it's still easier to play than MM. But let's be honest, MM hunter is also not rocket science, right? It's easier to play than MM hunter, but it's also more meta than MM hunter. So obviously, you have some separation between them. But I would say MM hunter, if you pick it up and you play BGs, you're going to have insanely like a lot of fun. Like nobody's going to stop you doing like aim shots, and you can even play sniper shot for fun, and you're going to do well. So there is that. Let's talk about DKs. Unholy DK is, you have a learning curve. I'm not going to say that you have to main it. I don't think it's easy to play because, again, the rotation is a bit backwards. You have to press multiple GCDs to be able to do your damage. And once you're like set in and you're like in your flow, you can basically like press 2 buttons pretty much, and you try to maintain your dots to get the modifiers. And you try to do death goals to proc the wounds. If you get a proc for sudden doom, or else you're kind of trying to do your clawing shadows to proc it, or you play like a dot spec, like the dot based disease spec. But I personally don't play that. I don't like that. I prefer the wounds spec and try to do a lot of damage with death coil and clawing shadows pretty much. So for me, it's a learning curve because I think you have a lot of CC, and if you're not using it, you're basically just a worse warriors in my opinion. But if you play around your CC and you're doing damage and you know when to grip, like double grip blind, or you know to silence the healer, and you try to interrupt the healer then, and pretty much you can just solo win a game by yourself. But you have a learning curve for that. You kind of have to learn how to CC, and that's pretty much what makes Unholy DK very scary. But overall, it's not like very steep though. It's not like something you have to main to be good at it. But on the other hand, I think Frost DK, although it's not hard, like the rotation is not hard, I do feel like you have to main Frost DK to have fun, because you're going to have to play like 1 or 2 comps in 3s. I think there is TSG that is quite good. You can also play with an Devastation Evoker pretty much, or I guess third comp with Windwalker, or a fourth comp with DH, but both of them prefer Unholy DK right now, so there is that. And even TSG, you prefer, essentially a warrior will prefer Unholy DK, but Frost DK can make the life of an arms warrior way easier, I would say. But even then, Frost DK, it's hard to play, and you kind of have to main it because, again, your goes are telegraphed and the enemy knows what you're going to do, especially at higher MMR. And you also know what you have to do to get those goals. Like pretty much try to go on someone, double grip, or if it's double melee, you just grip the healer and you get triple blind, and then you try to go for the healer with like your pillar go, with your stun, and then you have a silence, and then not another stun if you want to overkill. And luckily you can get a kill from the start, or you have to rinse and repeat, and in 1 minute you try to do the same go. Now it's harder to do so because now the trinkets are like 1.5 minutes CD, so if you mess up your timings, you're pretty much giving them even more time to adjust to your goes. But pretty much I think it's harder to play, although you would say, look, but the rotation is pretty much like hits whatever is like lighting up. That's true. I do think it is easy to play, but nobody can pick up Frost Decay and do good with it. Like really, without like watching a guide, without knowing anything about Frost Decay, if you're picking up Frost Decay, you're going to have a terrible time. Except at low MMR where people are not stopping you at Pillar of Frost. But I'm not talking about like, again, this is pretty much like telling you, look, if you want to climb and you want to main something, or you want to alt something, or you want to play something that's easy or something that has fast results, this is the tier list for you. But if you, that means you want to climb. If you want to be like staying at lower MMR, which is good. Again, I have also some characters that are low MMR. I don't think I will get them to climb because I don't have time to play with them, for example. But I will not try. I will. You can pick up anything and have fun. It doesn't matter. But if you want to really climb, you want to dedicate to a class or a spec that, for example, is hard to main, hard to play, or you want to play something that has a learning curve, or you want to play something easy that is actually good to climb, or you want to have something that has fast results. I think for Frosty K, you have to main it to have somewhat of a result. Let's talk about arcane mage. Arcane mage is for me something that you have to main to be good at it. Because again, I think the difference between a good arcane mage and a bad one is like miles apart. Like I think you know what I'm talking about. Whenever you're melee, you see arcane mage not kiting any of your damage. You're kind of smacking your lips together and you're saying, look, this one is the one. I'm going to win versus them. And then you're facing someone that is actually very good. And then he's very good at kiting and very good at surviving. It feels like a huge time waste to actually go for them, especially if you don't have a purge on your team. It's like literally the worst thing that can happen to a melee, for example, as an arms warrior. You don't have a purge and he knows how to kite. Good luck, you're not going to kill him. It's probably better to even go for sub rogue, and even them are very hard to kill. So if you're playing in threes, for example, RMP. So I think arcane, very hard to main, but you can have some results with it. I think personally arcane mage is very strong. I don't think it's like S tier strong, but it's really strong. You can solo carry games because of your like ability to kite, your ability to survive, your ability to do huge amount of damage. Especially force set really enables you, and also your CC is really unparalleled. And again, CC is king, and even though it's nerfed multiple times, I do feel like games kind of get decided on CC, and often not it is like this, or mana or CC, one or the other. Like generally, if the healer is not CC'd, he can heal it most likely. Now Frost Mage though, I'm going to say that it has a learning curve. I want to say that's easy to play, to be honest, but I'm going to say that it has a learning curve because it is a mage spec. You have some kiting, you have some CC that you have to know how to apply. I think the rotation is not that hard. So if you're talking about rotation, it would be easy to play. But to be honest, rotation is not always something that is making something easy or hard. Let's be honest. Like World of Warcraft is not really a heavy rotational, like especially PvP is not really heavy rotational game compared to other games, for example. So for me, Frost Mage, it has a learning curve. I would say the same as Destruction Warlock, but you can have also a lot of fun with it. I do feel like in threes and twos, you kind of be like it's not that good for you. I think it really is comp dependent, and in twos, I think if you're not playing with a rogue, games are quite long. But I think in social shuffle you can have a lot of fun, especially versus melees. Once you kind of embrace the fact that you're playing versus melees, and you know how to kite and you know how to make them crazy, you can actually win games very fairly a lot versus melees. So I think you can have a lot of fun with them, and also learn a lot by playing them. So it's also possible you can alt a Frost Mage, for example. Like those two, you can alt them or you can main them, but you can most likely alt them and still do good with it. Fire Mage though, in between. It will depend on who you're talking to, I would say. But currently, it just is that Fire Mage is not that good. But I would say it has a learning curve. But let's be honest, Fire Mage is not that good right now. So it will be feeling like it has to be mained to be good. But in any time, in any place, whenever the balancing is good for you, it has a learning curve. It's not something you have to main. The goes are always going to be the same. You kind of play around your combust. You kind of try to learn how to kite, and that's the difficulty of the spec. Trying to survive, pretty much. But I would say, like, again, if I have to compare it between an affliction warlock and fire mage, anytime, any meta, I think affliction warlock is harder than fire mage in general. Evokers, I would say it is very fast results. Like devastation evoker is crazy fast results. If you want to have fun and you're a melee man and you love to play melee like a warrior, for example, and you want to play ranged, devastation evoker has some crazy fast results. It's actually not that hard. It doesn't have a lot of buttons. The CC is very intuitive, and you cannot even like spam CC anyways because it has a CD, so you're not even expected to. Your deep breath is your CC and your damage. Your go is kind of telegraphed, and it has you can fake goes, but I would say it's always the same pretty much. And Dragon Rage is such a big CD and can be lasting for like up to 30 seconds if you're like good at like extending it. You can actually do a lot of damage while in Dragon Rage. You can also do a lot of damage outside of Dragon Rage. You have double wall. You have literally nullifying shroud if you want to play without getting CC'd for 30 seconds. You can play anti-slow and anti-root hover, which is also very strong. You have a lot of stuff, like for example, you can dispel your enemy hots with a fire breath, pretty much. I do feel like you can have a crazy fast results with it, and even if it's not fast results, it is easy to play. So I would recommend to play Devastation Evoker, although if you don't like the models, I understand that. But there is Teamorph as well if you want to use it. It's an add-on. Again, it's kind of blurry if you can use it or not. I know no one getting banned for it, but anyways, I do feel like Devastation Evoker is very strong. And even though the models are not that good and you don't have a transmog or whatever, it is actually very, very, very fun, and also has crazy results if you just like keep on playing Devastation Evoker. Preservation Evoker, let's talk about healers now, because we didn't have a healer. I do feel like it's not easy to play. Like, I don't know how people can say that it's easy to play. For me, it has a learning curve. I don't think it has like the most main kind of thing, but you have to play around your ranges. It's not hard. That's not easy to play, especially if you're like playing other healers, like let's say a mistweaver or resto druid. You're so used to play at like 40 yards, 30 yards, that if you're doing the same as evoker, like a preservation evoker, you're not going to have a lot of fun. You also have to realize that a lot of your spells, I would say 80% of your spells are CD based. So again, you don't have like a healing surge or a riptide, or you don't have like a holy shock with like glimmer of light tied to it. You don't have like penance or atonement healing, or your crazy hosts without any CDs except Cenarian Ward, for example. Preservation Evoker doesn't have that. You have Spirit Bloom, which is crazy healing. You have Verdant Embrace, which is pretty much something you have to press before you're doing Dream Breath, for example. Sometimes you can do also a Verdant Embrace into a Living Flame proc. So again, you have options, but you have to press your CDs, and that's something you have to learn. Like, it's not something you don't want to keep CDs, because again, if you're not using your CDs, you're not going to heal. So that's something you have to learn. But I do feel like, again, once you have learned that aspect, it is not that hard to play. But I do feel like, again, it has a learning curve. Now let's talk about the Retribution Paladin and Holy Paladin. Retribution Paladin is actually easy to play. You just need if you really suck at hodging the healer, just make a focus hodge macro, and you just hodge. You press that button, like super comfortable button, every time you're seeing the healer. You can even fake it if it's a priest. He will fade it, and then you can hodge him. And if you hodge every, like normally you can reduce it every 30 seconds. Normally you should have a hodge if you have like crazy uptime, and you can actually like get like wins because of that, especially with the damage increase. Also, I think it's dumb fun. Actually, is it very fast results though? I don't think it's very fast results, because I do feel like you don't. I mean, I'm gonna put them at very fast results because I think it's easy to play. But I do feel like if once you have learned the few things that are like a bit harder to a Retribution Paladin, you can have like some good results with it. So I do feel like once you learn how to bob onto Divine Shield on time, using your Shield of Vengeance offensively but also defensively, your Aegis on time, and then your lethal off field, which is again sometimes not worth the press. Using your wings correctly, knowing and how to track your wings and try to do a lot of damage with it. Again, I think Retribution Paladin can be awesome to play with. Holy Paladin, though, I would also say it's very fast results. It's the learning curve, because there is a learning curve, but I think every single spec has learning curve, let's be honest, but I think Holy Paladin doesn't have the learning curve that some specs has. You just need to learn how to bob fast enough. Once you know how to bob fast enough, you can then learn how to hold bob fast enough. You don't want to bob like immediately, but if you have to and you have to learn how to heal, it's better to just bob and then you use your heals and try to also like Glimmer of Light, use Glimmer of Light as much as you can because of your Daybreak, for example, and you can have some crazy healing because of it. Again, the healing throughput is not like awesome for Holy Paladin compared to like, let's say, a resto druid or even Preservation Reworker has some good throughput, but that's not always everything. Mistweavers, for example, sometimes Holy Priest has throughput, but that doesn't have mana, for example. But Holy Paladin, if you learn how to use your utility, you will climb like insanely. Also, if you're like crying about melee lobbies, Holy Paladin literally thrives from it. You counter Unholy Decay with just one PvP talent, for example. You have also a counter to boomies with Root Beam. You can play the Judgment Dispel. If you're lucky, you can actually dispel it. If you're playing only versus someone that has one magic, I would say debuff, like for example DK, you can play the Judgment that actually dispels magic and disease because it's one from each. And since Silence is the only magic thing from Unholy Decay, you're going to dispel your Silence like directly. You don't even have to trinket. It's actually like super strong. You just need to learn how to use it basically. But Holy Paladin has so many tools. You can actually just climb because of it. I know that because I'm not a healer main, and I'm actually climbing like above 2k, which is for me, for a like not a healer main, I think it's fantastic. So if I can do that, anyone can do that. Trust me, it is easy to play. Has a lot of fun with it. You can play aggressively. You have some things you can change. PvP talents, you have a lot of PvP talents that are actually very fun to play with. I would just go for Holy Paladin if you are looking for a healer. I have a guide for it. So again, if you want to check that out, you can always check in the description. You will see the guide. Let's talk about Shaman, I guess. I will make some people mad, but I do feel like Elemental Shaman is easy to play. You don't have to be like doing crazy things. Made a guide about it, also a second guide about it. To be honest, what you need to do is just have full haste, put 3 flame shocks, and you're just spamming lava burst whenever you get lava surge proc, and that's pretty much every single 2 seconds. Like every 2 seconds you get lava surge proc. You don't have to cast anything. Cast frost shock to slow on demand. You learn how to use your static field totem, but to be honest, that's like, I would say 3 hours of training if you know how to just like do some like throughput training with your static field totem. You will see every single situation where you can use it, and then you can just like use it on a wimp. Your damage rotation is pretty much just pressing lava burst and doing your primordial wave and doing your go like that. You can put primordial wave with meteor together on one button, so you don't have to press anything from your pets. Again, I think people kind of make Elemental Shaman seem like it's hard, but it is not really hard. Just need enough haste. You need good gear. You need foresight. You need to know how your damage exists, and you need to know how to kite. But I would say any of these specs are harder to learn than Elemental Shaman. Even a Holy Decay is harder to learn than Elemental Shaman. I would say it's on the level as MM Hunter. I would say even MM Hunter is probably a bit harder, I would say, just because it's like dependent on kiting a bit more than Elemental Shaman. Elemental Shaman, you can literally jump on the spot, try to push everyone, try to do static field totem, not kite, and still do a lot of damage. They can train you and still do top damage, for example. Again, I say that I am a Shaman main in general, so again, I just I just think if you like Elemental Shaman, stick with it and you will have a lot of fun with it and you can just climb with it like very easily with it. I could even say fast results, but I'm not going to do that. I do think like not every single spec has fast results, but you can have a lot of like fast results with Elemental Shaman. Enhancement Shaman, I would say it's must main. Why I say that is because even in PvE, it's one of the specs that has the most buttons to do simple rotations. Let me repeat. Enhancement Shaman has like 5, 6, 7 buttons to press to just do damage. Not even burst, not even like preparation for burst like unholy decay. It just is your rotation. You have to press 7 buttons every single time. Every single time. I think it is one of the specs with the most APM, and the only reason why you cannot press more buttons is because you're playing full mastery these days. If whenever you're playing full haste, you actually press buttons lightning quick, and you have to do so because else you will lose healing or you will lose damage or you will lose utility. Overall, it is much harder. If you play Elemental Shaman, you never touch Enhancement Shaman, I invite you to touch just one time Enhancement Shaman and tell me how it feels. It is a spec that plays from 10 years ago right now, in my opinion. It kind of needs a rework, but for now, it is something that you kind of need to main. If you really want to have results, you kind of have to play like day in and day out, know every single situation, know what button you have to press at what time. It is not something you can say press what is lighting up, because everything is lighting up. And again, if you have enhancement shamans that are in the comments, let me know what you think about what I said, because I do feel like you can feel what I said. Basically, if anyone says you have just to press what is lighting up, you can just laugh at them, because it's really not true. It is much more than that. And for PvE, I think from what I've heard, Enhancement Shaman is a hard spec to play compared to other specs. So I think it's holding the same standards. But in PvP, you cannot really have like that kind of difficulty and have like so little results in my opinion. Enhancement Shaman is again hard to main, hard to play and must main, but also little results. I could also make a little results tab, but I don't want to discourage too many people. Again, play what you like. That is the one thing I want to say. Play what you like. Resto Shaman, I would say it has a learning curve because of all the totems. I do feel like you don't really have to main to be very good at it. I think it just is frustrating to have like in social for people like running away from your totems, or like putting you in a position where you have to healing tide in front of them so they can just break it directly. So that's the one thing that is very annoying, but I do feel like the learning curve comes from your utility, your CC, your damage that you can do, because Restoration Shaman can do damage, and your kind of rotation, because there is a bit of rotation for Resto Shaman to do optimal healing and to know when you can actually top someone or not. And whenever you have to link, whenever you have to healing tide, whenever you kind of have to use your ancestral guidance, your ascendance, you have things that are tricky, but I don't think it's like super hard to the point where you have to main it, but pretty much still a learning curve. Also a lot of keybinds. It is not an easy class to play by far. Now let's talk about rogues. I think it's no secret, subtlety rogue is something you kind of have to main if you really want to have results. Yes, it is fun to use like the one-shot macros from Palomor or from someone else, but at the end of the day, not every single situation you'll be able to just press one button and do your full go, especially at higher MMR where people are like trinketing and using their defensive directly instead of like sitting the whole cheap shot rotation and then trinketing at the end to try to save them at 10% HP, which is often not enough to be saved. I say that I tried to play subtlety rogue because I wanted to play that. I am terrible at it. I know it's very strong, but I'm terrible at it. And it is because I'm not maining one. And the truth is that subtlety rogue, although it is, I'm going to say OP because it is OP, because of the defensives, the utility, the CC, and also the burst damage that is actually capable to actually 100 into one duel if again you messed up somewhere. I do feel like you have to main it. So it's not face roll. It's not like something like a kid can just like put his head onto the keyboard and get some kills. That's not going to happen. But once you're proficient at it, once you're like a main at it, once you're like a real sub rogue, you can actually do very well with it. So I think it's really worth to get some time onto rogue and to learn how to play one. I would say outlaw rogue is the same. You kind of have to main it, in my opinion. It's not. It's difficult because of the rotation. Difficult because you have to track a lot of buffs. Difficult because again, it's not like Shadowlands, outlaw rogue where you are tanky. You are not right now. So you are killable. You are a target these days, but you have more damage than in Shadowlands. But you have to know how to use it, and that's something you have to main to actually be able to do so. While, for example, Assassination Rogue is, in my opinion, easy to play. Your go is pretty much like always going to be the same. You put all your dots, you kind of PvE, you put your slice and dice, uptime, you try to do a kidney into a shiv, and then you can press a macro, which is doing Kingsbane with like Shadow Dance and your Thistle's TE and your badge. You will do a lot of damage and venoms whenever you can. Try to kill him and rinse and repeat. Kidney, shiv, every single time. Shiv has a 20-second CD, I believe, and kidney has a 30-second CD, so you will always be able to shiv every single kidney. So it's kind of easy to play. The hardest part is surviving, I guess, but I would say, do I compare Frost Mage, Fire Mage, Destruction Warlock with an Assassination Rogue for surviving or to learn how to survive? No, I think Assassination Rogue is easier to learn how to survive, so I think it's easy to play spec. Results can be there, but I don't think it's face roll though. But I do feel like, again, you kind of have to play Assassination Rogue, play Subtlety Rogue, go back to Assassination Rogue and understand why it is easy. I might upset people with that, but again, I think it is the truth. Of course, the difference between Assassination Rogue that is good and someone that is very bad can be seen, but I think I can say the same for any spec, really. For any spec. Let's talk about Havoc Demon Hunter. I think you can have very fast results with it. It's easy to play. It has some learning curve. It doesn't have to be a main. I think every single button you can do has some AoE aspect to it, except Chaos Blade, or I don't even know how it's called anymore. Annihilator, whenever you are like Annihilation, whenever you are in Metamorph, that I know. But Blade Dance, Death Sweep, which is the same, Eye Beam, Elysian Decree, even the Hunt, like you have a lot of AoE aspects. So again, Havoc Demon Hunter, very fast results. There is like a statistic where a Havoc Demon Hunter actually like gets very quickly to 1600 compared to other specs. If I can find it, I will put it in the description. But I think it's on a Reddit post. Like the amount of people between 0 and 1600 is very low compared to the amount of people that are above 1600 with Havoc Demon Hunter. While, for example, Affliction Warlock, you will see a lot more below 1600 and a lot less above, for example. But very strong. I would recommend if you want to climb. Druid. Let's talk about Druid. A Feral Druid, I think you have to main it to have some results with it. And the results currently are not fantastic, but still you have to main it to be good at it. Balanced Druid, I would say it has a learning curve. You need to learn how to survive, basically. Learn when to root beam. Sometimes you don't want to root beam like anything. Like if you don't burst and your ally is not bursting with you, it's pointless to root beam. But if your ally is bursting with avatar, that's your go to root beam and do an eclipse go, your scenario alignment go, for example. But you don't want to do it like blindly. You also need to learn how to cyclone off DPS and DPS. You need to learn how to juke. It is very strong though right now, so if you're learning it, you can be proficient at it. I don't think you have to main it though. You could play like, let's say, subtlety rogue main and balance druid alt, for example. They're very similar in how they operate. I would say, like, for example, for CC and how they do burst. But I think balance druid right now, very, very strong, and it has a learning curve. I don't think it's easy, but you can make it easy for you by just playing it and learning it. Resto druid, I think it is one of the specs that has a lot of results just by playing it. You just need to learn the basics with light bloom, not to drop your hots. You don't have to cyclone, to be honest. You can play aggressive, you can play around cyclones, but generally you can just stick from afar and heal and do nothing and still have more wins and losses. And once you have understood that, you can play with cyclones, you can play with like boomkin form into Rav spams, for example, Starfire spams. But you kind of need to learn the basics. I think the basics are not that hard to play, to learn. Again, it's also one of the healers where I climbed the fastest. And if I can do that, you can do that for sure. I'm not a healer main. I have a DPS brain. I want to like suicide every single time with my resto druid into the enemies and still come like victorious. I think resto druid is very strong right now. Windwalker, very, very, very strong. It has some learning curve, or is it easy? I would say it's very fast results. It has learning curve, but very fast results. Once you have learned the learning curves behind Windwalkers, you can actually dish like unhealable amount of damage. Sometimes you can like destroy someone with the healer not being like CC'd. And once you have put a paralyze on the healer and then you're doing your go, that guy is going to trinket directly because he has to heal. And then you have like a leg sweep, for example, or you do your next go with your next paralysis. So I think in general, you can have a lot of fast results with the Windwalkers. So just play that and you will see by yourself that you're going to be good with it. I think like those 4 melees are the ones that really, if you want to play and you want to have CR very fast and you want to learn very fast and you want to be performing very fast, I think those 4 are like the quadra of people, like classes or specs that can be played to be good with your rating, for example. Now, Holy Priest, I don't know too much about it. I would say that it is the second least spec I played so far this season. I feel like it is not hard, but it is also not very meta. I would say it's easy to play. I'm very sorry for people that think it's not easy to play. I might be wrong, but I do feel like it's easy to play because it really depends on balancing pretty much. If the balancing is good, it will feel like super easy. If it's bad, it will seem like it's easy, but you're not able to climb. In my opinion, the healing is straightforward. You need to kind of unlearn that you want to heal preemptively, because again, you want to actually not overheal too much on your serenity, and that is only happening if you're doing it whenever they're low HP, or else you're going to overheal 200k or 300k for every single press, and that's not something you want to do. But overall, I think it's easy to play spec. It has a range stun, a fear, it has fade, it has spirit angel if you want to say no to CC at all for 8 seconds or 10 seconds, I don't remember. It can jump into the sky versus melees. You have tools. I do feel like those tools makes it easier to play, but of course right now it is not meta, so it will feel like it's something you have to main, but to be honest, it is not as easy, like as hard to play than, let's say, other DPS or healers. Mistweaver, I forgot to talk about it because I was talking about Windwalker. Fist weaving is it has a learning curve, and cast weaving is actually easy, so I'm going to put them at easy, like together. I think really the hardest part about mistweaver is actually just juking. You have to juke your costs, and sometimes you want to cancel your costs directly and get like the CC out of the way, like the silences and the interrupts out of the way. But I think mistweavers, they can actually just AFK heal and do well. Fistweavers on the other hand, again, low MMR, it is a nightmare, but you can actually do very well versus melee cleaves, and you have to play around your two builds pretty much. If there is a melee cleave versus you and they're going to zug ranged from you, play Fistweaver and you're going to have a great time to actually like cleave them both and have insane healing. If there's only one melee, it feels terrible. If it's like full casters, it feels even more terrible to play Fistweaver. But I do still think it's like between them. I do feel like it's easy, so I'm going to say it's easy to play. But again, it depends on like fist weaving, or it depends on cast weaving and who you're facing pretty much. Disc Priest, I do feel like it is a I want to say that it is a must main healer. The only reason why I say that is because the difference between a very good Disc Priest and a very bad one is like the ocean, space between Europe and Australia, the place between the moon and Mars. That's the kind of space between a very good disc priest and a bad one. So imagine a good one with just a bad one, or a good with an average one. The difference is still very big. The difference is the damage done, atonement healing, when they press PS, when they trinket, whenever they're doming, whenever they're gripping, whenever they're CCing, because again, you only have a fear, so whenever they're trying to do and go for a CC, or whenever they're fading, if they're playing mind control or not, if they're playing mind games or not, if they're going to play and do ultimate penitence at the right time. For example, someone is cycloned and the real target is not. Ultimate penitence, all the bolts are going to go on the enemy or your allies. So you're going to pretty much one-shot someone. So the difference is like super big, that you kind of have to main disc priest if you really want to have great results with it. Yes, I know some people can pick up disc priest and have instant results with it, but often they already played disc priest in the past, or they are very proficient at it, or they're very good and like they are already untouchable for you. But if you compare yourself to those players, it's not going to be like doing justice for you. Again, compare it with yourself. If you're playing Disc Priest, and again, I'm going to move my camera because I'm sorry. If you play Disc Priest and you play it like sporadically, you will see that once you have put way more time into it, that you will be way more proficient at it. Again, knowing that if you're getting kicked unholy, that you press directly anything that is Shadow School, for example, is like big brain. Or if you're casting Mind Blast and they kick you on it, that you directly cast something holy, that's big brain again. Again, I think people kind of have like some jet lag to it, but again, the difference between a good one and an average one and a bad one, it's too big. So I do think it's a must main healer. And Shadow Priest, I would say it is something that is a must main, because right now it is very squishy. And not squishy, but I would say it feels squishy because it has no mobility, let's be honest. But and also you're kind of a victim like in all lobbies. But I would say that it has a learning curve. Let's be honest. I think the hardest part of Shadow Priest is knowing how to CC and kind of how to survive, but also not panicking. A lot of Shadow Priests are like panicking and they are running away every single time, but they can't because they have no mobility, so they should actually stand still and cast. And sometimes run away with a fade into a root, into your feather, for example. But I do feel like, again, it has learning curve, but once you have learned and go past the learning curve, you can do very well with it. So just for that, I do feel like it is a learning curve spec. I don't think it's like... you know what? I'm going to put them at the heart to play must main, simply because of the meta right now and how like out of place they are like as a spec and class. But I do feel like it has only just a learning curve. But I would say in today, 10.2 to 10.2.5 without any mobility, without like help from the devs, yes, you kind of have to main to have like great results with it. But this is my tier list about it. It's a very long video, so I lied at the start. I'm very sorry, but I do feel like I kind of explained everything very in depth. I don't think like I missed a beat on any spec. Again, you might think I'm crazy for this spec to be there and the other spec to be there, but I think it can spark some debate. But I do feel like I'm kind of right on it. I play every single spec nearly. There's only like augmentation evoker that I didn't play too much, and the holy priest that I barely touch. But the overall rest, I did touch it or play it somehow, some way, and I do feel like I can have an educative opinion about those specs. Anyways, comments below what you think about the video, what do you think about the specs, what do you want to play right now for the remainder of the season, which I think it will be like only 2 months long now, from now to till the next season, in my opinion. But we'll have to see. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Be sure to stay safe. We will catch each other probably very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.